Good morning, 3 a.m. And the blurb reads like this. Bank cannot prove a loan was ever made. Early on in this case that began in July 2005, the bank, which changed names twice, admitted they had lost the note. It was the same attorney for all three banks, Kimberly Rezanka. Despite not having any document with a wedding signature, she convinced me to agree to give them power of attorney to sell the Merritt Island property. I fulfilled my part, but true to form, she breached the agreement. She never sent me the paperwork to sign. The proof is in the affidavit I filed at the time and those that followed, where I affirmed the agreement again. She, more than any other individual in this matter, broke the law, even the statutory law that violates common law. Of course, she accomplished this with the complicity of judges in the court system of Brevard County. As many of you know, that is not a legitimate court at all. Rather, it is a privately owned corporation whose shareholders and beneficiaries are the very judges who work in collusion with the fraudulent bankers. It's interesting that I'm working with a particular man from Florida who is an ex-sheriff deputy and also a Native American. And he has done some things in his world that have been successful for whatever reason. And he implies that I haven't done any because, what did he say? How have your efforts worked thus far? Insanity is defined by the layman how. You are in need of reintroduction to the isness. And the isness he has capitalized, which I guess he means the creator or creative force, whatever. And I'd like to know, even though I listened for a long time yesterday to, I forgot my friend's name, who I met actually just a couple months before I moved to Florida back in January 1983. I went to his church because my friend Dr. Bruce Morgan was speaking there, and his teaching is very different. I spent a good part of yesterday listening to one message after another. I probably listened to 10 or 12 altogether. I don't know. I didn't count them. I just kept playing new messages. But in any case, the law, if you want to think that there's a stability there, you're crazy. It's not stable. What works for one person will not necessarily work for another person. And that's been the experience that I've had, not only my personal experience, but talking to other people. Sometimes people do a certain thing and it works and they get exonerated or left alone, whatever. Other people will do the exact same thing and have the book thrown at them or accomplish nothing. There's a catch-22. There is no consistency in the de facto system. They make it up as they go along. There's no stability. Anybody that thinks there's stability in the, quote, law needs to have their head examined because there is none. I mean, I have observed it in interacting with people over the last 10 years at least. I've noticed this thing that I've been involved in this case, and trying to learn what the law is. The law isn't any of that because none of the remedies are ironclad. They just aren't. It's however your paperwork lands at that particular time and whichever judge or individual happens to review it and make the decision. They do not play by a constant rule like For example, to me, they've never had a trial. They never really had a hearing of any essence where all the facts could be put on the table, like the facts that I presented. She doesn't have a document showing that I ever borrowed money. And a document has to be a wedding signature. Now she claims she lost a $250,000 loan document that had a $5,000 interest on it. She lost it? I mean, I can see maybe losing a $20 bill or a $10 bill or a $5 bill or some singles or some coins. But a $250,000 note, that is a negotiable instrument. She lost it. The banks have lost lots of those things. That's what they say. And they get the courts to allow them to use copies without a wet ink signature. Now that's unlawful. That's absolutely insanity. But they get away with it because the courts and the banks work together as a team. It's a fraud enterprise. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it's crazy for people to believe that there is something that works consistently across the table, across the board, in a system that is run by fraudsters. It's crazy to believe that they will ever consistently do the right thing. They sometimes do the right thing. There was one of the Supreme Court judges came out last year, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, and talked about the Magna Carta and common law principles with praise. Does that mean that the Supreme Court obeys common law? They don't enforce it on the so-called courts underneath. They get away with it. Again, they allow decisions to be made, properties to be taken, and I'm sure even people incarcerated in some instances. And they don't follow the letter of the law. They don't. And the letter of the law is malleable. It changes. It changes according to whoever and whatever that whoever feels like changing it. They make a different decision. There is no stability, no logic, no consistency in the application of principles. There is none, because it's a fraud system. And it irks me and irritates me and frustrates me that people think, well, you didn't do what I told you. Well, this particular individual who commented in yesterday's video has promised to send me a document that shows what he did and how it worked. I haven't received it yet. I've had it promised to me, but I haven't seen it. I haven't been instructed on how to file something similar that would exonerate me and get me out of this horrible mess, which, from my perspective, they've singled me out because I'm on the videos all the time talking about what's wrong with the judicial system. I'm pointing a finger at the banking system and the government. I'm pointing a finger at them all the time and saying it's fraud, it's corruption. And so they don't want anything, not the UCC filings, not the affidavits of truth. And I have filed numerous affidavits, literally numerous affidavits. They've never rebutted a single one of them. Not a single one of them. Now, an affidavit stands as the final judgment in a matter according to the law. Do they obey the law? Hell no. Hell no, they don't. They ignore my affidavits. They file an affidavit where I'm not even going to see it. And it's not even an affidavit. Person never even had any influence in the case. Anyway, I see that my 10 minutes has run out. I do thank you for listening, and putting up with my frustrations of trying to get justice in a world where there doesn't seem to be much of it. Thank you again for listening. Namaste.